This is our pictorial input for the Massachusetts Bay Colony, which is a part of the New England colonies. Before we begin, let's go over our learning targets. Please read them with me. I can share accurate information about the major individuals and groups responsible for the founding of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. I can explain the early democratic ideas and practices in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Let's go over our essential vocabulary. Please repeat them after me. Emigrated. Emigrated. Colony. Colony. Colonist. Colonist. Geography. Geography. Dense. Dense. Harbor. Harbor. Grant. Grant. Settle. Settle. Government. Government. Representatives. Representatives. Democracy. Democracy. Democratic. Democratic. Majority rules. Majority rules. Ballot system. Ballot system. Founding. Founding. Puritan. Puritan. Religion. Religion. Persecuted. Persecuted. Economy. Economy. Import. Import. Export. Export. Industry. Industry. Lumbering. Lumbering. Okay, so looking at our Massachusetts Bay Colony, I'm an expert on the Massachusetts Bay Colony and I'm going to teach you all about it. In the Massachusetts Bay Colony, we are going to start off by talking about the geographic features in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Say geographic features. Geographic features. So, we're going to describe the geography of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. The Massachusetts Bay Colony had natural harbors. Say that with me. Natural harbors. It also had dense forests. Say that with me. Dense forests. The dense forest means they had an abundance of trees in their forest. They also had rocky soil. Say that with me. Rocky soil. The Massachusetts Bay Colony had harsh winters. Say that with me. Harsh winters. Because of their harsh winters, it was so cold in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. With the cold weather, insects were dying. So they had a lot of dead insects. Say that with me. Dead insects. With the insects dying, there was less diseases being spread around. So in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, they had less diseases. Say that with me. Less diseases. And with less diseases, in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, people lived longer. Say that with me. People lived longer. And as you can see, the Massachusetts Bay Colony was located right next to the Atlantic Ocean. Say that with me. Atlantic Ocean. What I would like for you to do is turn and talk to your neighbor, and with your neighbor, describe some of the geographic features in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Heads together. Okay, great job. Now that we've talked about the geographic features of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, we're going to talk about the reason for founding. Say that with me. Reason for founding. So, people came from Great Britain. Say that with me, Great Britain. Great Britain. And another name for Great Britain is England. Say that with me, England. People emigrated from Great Britain. So they emigrated, which means to leave one country to permanently settle in another. So they emigrated, they left Great Britain, and they immigrated into the 13 colonies. So they emigrated and left Great Britain and immigrated into Massachusetts Bay Colony. The reason why colonists came was for religious freedom. Say that with me. Religious freedom. When these colonists came to the Massachusetts Bay Colony, they built churches. Say that with me. Built churches. And they had education. Say that with me. Education. When these colonists first came, they arrived in 1630. Say this with me. 1630. In the year 1630, 1,000 people lived in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Say that with me. 1,000 people. 10 years later, which is one decade, 10 years later in 1640, 20,000 people lived in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Say this with me. 1640, 20,000 people. The people who lived in the Massachusetts Bay Colony were called Puritans. Say that with me. Puritans. Puritan gets its name because these people practiced a pure form of religion. Say that with me. Pure form of religion. These Puritans who lived in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, they set up and they built their area in Boston. In Boston, Massachusetts. Say this with me. Boston. Boston is still a city today in Massachusetts that you can go and visit. So they set up Boston because Boston had good food and water. So essential for living. They had good food and water. Say this with me. Boston had good food and water. And Boston was known as their town common. So their town common area where people would meet. Say this with me. Town common. Now, the person who led the journey and who founded the Massachusetts Bay Colony was John Winthrop. Say that name with me. John Winthrop. He was given money for his journey and for food. He was given money for the journey and food. Say that with me. Money for the journey and food. Turn and talk to your neighbor and talk to your neighbor about what were some of the reasons for founding the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Heads together. Okay, historians, we're going to move into government. Say government with me. Government. So we're going to talk about the government of the Massachusetts Bay Colony and how the colony was ran. So their government was that they would have town meetings. Say that with me. Town meetings. In these town meetings, they had 2 representatives. Say that with me. 2 representatives. So they had 2 representatives come, and they were a democracy. Say democracy. Democracy. So what that means is people would meet in their town hall. Say town hall. Town hall. In their town hall, they would vote and have majority rules. Say majority rules. Majority rules. So, they also had the first ballot system. Say first ballot system. First ballot system. So they voted on different causes and the different rules that they wanted in their government for the Massachusetts Bay Colony. However, the only people who were allowed to participate in their democratic and their democracy and their democratic government was men. So men voted. Say that with me. Men voted. But the men had to be church members. Say church members. Church members. They also had to be landowners. Say landowners. Landowners. So if you wanted to vote in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, you had to be a male who was a church member and a landowner. Now, we know that John Winthrop was the founder of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. In addition, John Winthrop, say that name with me again, John Winthrop. John Winthrop was 12 times governor. He was the governor 12 times. Say this with me. 12 times governor. He was the governor from the year they were founded, 1630. Say that with me. 1630. Until 1649. Say that with me. 1649. Turn and talk to your neighbor and talk to your neighbor about the word democracy. Say that word with me again. Democracy. Talk to your neighbor about how the Massachusetts was a democratic government and how they had democracy. Heads together. Okay, now we are going to move on to our next category, our economy. Say economy. Economy. When we're talking about economy, we're talking about our money. Okay, how did the Massachusetts make their money? So in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, they had small farms. Say small farms. Small farms. In addition, we know that they had dense forests. So with those dense forests, they were able to cut down their trees and make lumber. Say lumber. Lumber. And lumber is the wood from the trees. With the lumbers, they had shipbuilding. Say shipbuilding. Shipbuilding. Also, because they're so close to the Atlantic Ocean, ships were so useful, so shipbuilding was essential for the Massachusetts Bay Colony. In addition, they also had fishing. Say fishing. Fishing. So, in addition, in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, they made tools. Say made tools. Made tools. Some tools that they made were anchor. Say anchor. Anchor. Anchor is what holds a boat in place. They also made nails. Say nails. Nails. So, the Massachusetts Bay Colony, they had many crops and they produced many goods like nails and anchors. And what they did with those crops and with those resources was they traded with their mother country. They traded with mother country. Traded with mother country. And their mother country was Great Britain, also known as England. Say trade for me. Trade. So they traded lumber. Say lumber. Lumber. They also traded dry cod. Say dried cod. Dried cod. So cod is a fish, so from the ocean. And they also traded fur. Say fur. Fur. Awesome. What I would like for you to do is turn and talk to your neighbor and tell your neighbor what are some things that the Massachusetts Bay Colony traded with Great Britain. Heads together. Okay, great job. We're going to move on to interesting facts. Say interesting fact. Interesting facts. So some interesting facts I want to share to you about the Massachusetts Bay Colony is we're going to talk about their school life. Say school. School. So boys and girls went to school and studied different subjects. When boys went to school, they studied reading. Say reading. Reading. They also studied math. Say math. Math. They also studied history and science. Say history and science. History and science. When girls went to school, they also studied reading. Say reading. Reading. Girls, something that was different, they studied cooking. Say cooking. Cooking. They also studied sewing. Say sewing. Sewing. So they were able to sew clothes. Now, not only did boys and girls go to school and learn different subjects, their chores were also different. Does anyone have chores at home? Well, the boys' chores, if you were a boy living in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, you were in charge of farming. Say farming. Farming. You're also in charge of caring for animals. Say caring for animals. Caring for animals. Now the girls, say girls. Girls. Girls were in charge of cooking. Say cooking. Cooking. Cleaning. Say cleaning. Cleaning. And sewing. Say sewing. Sewing. Now some more interesting facts about the Massachusetts Bay Colony is there is a very popular college that is still around today called Harvard. Say Harvard. Harvard. Harvard opened in 1636. Say 1636. 1636. And Harvard is the oldest college. Say oldest college. Oldest college. Then in the year 1647, they added a school of law. Say 1647 School of Law. 1647 School of Law. So there, people can study to be lawyers. In addition, in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, they created the first school system. Say first school system. First school system. They also collected money for taxes. Say collected money for taxes. Collected money for taxes. What I'd like for you to do is turn and talk to your neighbor and compare what you study in school or maybe what some of your chores are to a student or a child who lives in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Heads together. All right, great job. And again, this is our pictorial input for the Massachusetts Bay Colony.